Morning, everyone. Morning, Anouk. Welcome back to our third and final session with regards to mentoring. Today's session is more of a wrap-up session, covering some of the key points and key questions that we've had over the last couple of weeks from listeners and viewers. So, Anouk, the first question for yourself is: we actually covered off the differences between coaching and mentoring. How do you know if you need a coach, or how do you know if you need a mentor?
It's a good question, and I think it often creates confusion. The way I see it is, I see coaching more as performance driven, right? What do you want to tackle? What do you want to address on the job? How can you become a better performer, right? Into that particular point. And most of the time, it is also very specific, very time bound, and it's quite formal, right? And quite intense. I think when I look at mentoring, I see it more informal. I see it more developmental. As I said last time, it's about how do you really create a better version of yourself, and performance will be part of that. But there's also the broader piece. It's that holistic view. So I think it's more informal. It's more focused on the future. And it is more, I would say it's less structured, because it can depend on where you go. You know, you pick your brain depending on what you need at that particular point. So that's where I would make the difference. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I can understand that. So the next question actually was on the back of a comment that we actually had from the video. So they said that they felt that coaching and mentoring are critical skills of a leader. So their question essentially was, why is it that companies never seem to look for these skills when they actually hire people?
Yeah. Well, and I must say, I think it's great to see all the reactions from people, and it's great to see questions like that. And it is very relevant, right? I think more and more, I think in today's environment, leadership is key. I think the role of a leader is to bring the best out of people. And I think often when organizations are selecting people, I think they often get seduced by the technical expertise, right? Okay, has someone that skill set? Have they done it before? But when you look at choosing a candidate, I always look at three things, right? I look at the technical fit, and yes, of course, that's important. But then I'll look at the cultural fit. Does that person kind of fit into the organization and has the same values? But the third piece also, does that person have the learning agility and the leadership that it takes, right, to grow people, to develop people, and all of that? And so I think that if you want to be a good leader and you want to coach and develop and mentor people, you need to have that learning agility. You need to have that growth mindset. So I think often, as I said, organizations get seduced because they think, oh, that person has it. But I think the softer parts and the leadership is far more important than just the technical expertise. And I think if organizations would focus on that a bit more, I think we would create a better world and create better versions of all of our people, right?
Yeah, definitely. Out of interest, when you hired people, is it something that you looked for?
Yeah, well, I kind of, for me, the interpersonal skills, the leadership, the growth mindset outweighs the technical expertise. I feel that certain things people can learn. I think having that mindset and having that leadership and having that care, right, for others is something is more difficult. So I would say that you hire for potential, you hire for the future, you hire for the opportunity. And so that means you sometimes need to make trade-offs. But I think in the past, I think the balance went one way. I think we need to think more the other way, my sense.
I really like the phrase you just used, care for others. On the back of everything we've been through over the last 18 months with COVID, I think care for others is an absolutely crucial part of leadership going forward. Interesting. Okay. So the next question essentially is, and again, coming back off the comments, there's really lovely comments actually, in terms of yourself and the fact that you'd acted as a mentor as well, and how good you'd been at it actually. So can I ask, why is it you believe you've been so successful as acting as a mentor in the past?
Yeah, listen, I think some of those comments definitely made me blush, and it's great, right? It's a privilege.
It's so lovely, though.
It's a privilege, My biggest purpose in life is to advance and progress others, right? So it's great to see that I've been able to have that impact. But for me, there's three things, in fact. As you kind of go into that relationship, as I said before in one of the sessions, it's about having that sense of destination, right? Where are you trying to get to? Yes, it is informal and it is not that structured. But I think both parties needs to have an idea, right? What are we trying to achieve? And it starts with self-reflection, not just from the mentor, but from the mentee, right? I think it's a key thing. So the having that destination is important. The second thing as a mentor, I think it's creating a safe environment, right? Psychological safety is crucial. How do you build that trust? How do you create an environment where someone can test and learn and be themselves? Because eventually it's all about experimenting and learning. And the third thing for me, it's about, the people going into that relationship with a growth mindset as a mentor, as a mentee, and you test and learn together, right? And so it's like a parachute, right? It doesn't work if it's not open. It's the same thing with the mind. So I think if you have that open and that growth mindset, you have that relationship with that safe environment, and you have that sense of destination, I think that's when magic can happen, right? And then you learn together and you figure it out together, and you make it work, right? And you get, you feel great if it does, right?
And I feel as though that's, again, coming back to that coaching, mentoring, I feel like that's another thing about mentoring. It really is, it's much more of a two-way street, I feel as though. Is that right? Would you say?
I agree. I think the relationship you build together, and as much as you become mentors, eventually you become friends for life as well, right? Because you understand each other, and you tackle things together, right? But the two-way communication is crucial. Otherwise, there cannot be trust, and there cannot be learning, and there cannot be a safe environment to play in, right? Because that's what eventually you're trying to do as well.
Yeah, I love the idea of creating a friend for life. I think it's such a lovely, lovely phrase again. So on the back of all of this, like we've spoken now, we've done 2 20-minute sessions prior to this, and we've talked about some lovely things around mentoring. What do you believe that we should do next on mentoring?
Well, I am a strong believer, especially if you think about the HR community, right? I think often the HR community is like the shoemaker's children, right? As I think I mentioned before, we care for everyone else, but we don't care for ourselves enough, right? So I think we need to start using ourselves as an asset, right? And how do we develop that asset? And I think, as we said, mentoring is part of that. But learning you do not alone. It's a team sport. So you need that support network to have there. So why do I think it's important to do mentoring for myself? Is for me is this notion about paying it forward, giving it back, really having others get the same experience that I've had before. So I think from a leadership perspective or mentor perspective, it's you give. I think from the mentees perspective and the HR community is around how do we learn? How do we invest in ourselves, and how do we get support doing that? But then thirdly, I think if you think about Elliott Scott as an organization and as a community, it brings together, lots of wonderful people. So I think it's this great recipe, right? Is around how do you connect people and have them give an opportunity to learn together, right? So I think what I'm seeing here is a bit of a call for action, right? Is that we can be on the sidelines, or we can lean in and being on the playing field. And I think that if all of us give and take, together, we will create a better HR community. Moreover, we will create better versions of ourselves. And I think Elliott Scott can play a key role there in creating that connectivity, right? In that regard.
I couldn't agree more with you, and I think it's been one of the key things about our discussions over the last sort of few weeks, and even prior to sort of the video sessions that we've been doing as well. So I suppose that leads me nicely into the fact of at Elliott Scott, we want to launch a mentoring program essentially, and that means we need both mentors and we need mentees. So we need both sides of the coin, because there are not enough of us here at Elliott Scott to sort of provide one aspect of this. So I suppose to your point and call for arms, Anouk, this is a situation where we're asking people to put their hands up. And if they're interested in doing something like this, they can contact me, obviously, at my email address, which is se@elliottScotthr.com. Thank you so much for your time over the last 3 weeks. It's been so insightful, and your passion for this subject has been something that I think everybody has loved watching and listening.
Yeah. Well, it's a pleasure. And as I always say, more to come. People that have worked with me know that very well. So I think we have a great opportunity here, and I hope many people will lean in. So looking forward to that. Thanks again.
Agreed.